There was a job on Earth so exclusively female, a man doing it could be arrested. Not fired, arrested. Right now, whatever you're drinking tonight, your body still wants it the exact same way it always has. Your tongue still lights up for that same sour, slightly sweet hit. Your brain still rewards you for it, running on the same wiring your ancestors' brains ran on. That craving didn't come from an ad. It came from something your body still treats like basic survival.
So here's the real question, and it's about you specifically. Are you drinking something that used to require a license just to be a woman, or a license just to not be one? Your body has no idea the rules ever changed.
Rewind 5,000 years to Sumer in what's now southern Iraq. Picture a woman crouched over a clay vat in the heat, stirring a thick, bubbling mash of barley bread and water with a wooden paddle. Her hands are stained. The air smells sour and yeasty. She isn't doing this for fun. In her city, beer isn't a treat. It's food. It's payment. Workers building the ziggurats are literally paid in beer, sometimes several liters a day, because clean water is scarce, and beer, boiled and fermented, won't make them sick.
And she's the only one legally allowed to make it. Brewing here is a licensed trade, and it belongs to a goddess, Ninkasi, worshipped specifically as a woman who brews. A surviving hymn to her, one of the oldest recipes ever written down, spells out the exact steps: soaking the grain, baking it into bread, mashing it with dates, letting it ferment in a vat. Archaeologist Patrick McGovern, who has spent decades analyzing chemical residue trapped inside ancient pottery, has confirmed traces of that exact recipe on jars thousands of years old. This isn't legend, it's read straight out of the clay.
Cross into ancient Egypt, and the pattern repeats. Beer there is closer to liquid bread, thick and nutritious, handed out daily to laborers, including the crews who built the pyramids. And again, it's brewed almost entirely by women, working in dedicated breweries attached to temples and homes. Why women every single time? Fermentation wasn't seen as chemistry back then. It was seen as something closer to magic, turning grain that would otherwise rot into something that nourished people. And across civilizations that never even met each other, the people trusted with that magic were women. Jump forward, past Rome, into the cold north, and the pattern holds. Norse sagas describe women brewing for feasts and funerals, and archaeologists have pulled brewing troughs out of Viking-era farmsteads run by women, not warriors. Jump forward once more to medieval England, and it's the same job, same gender, just a different name. She's called an alewife or a brewster. Brewster literally meaning a woman who brews. You'd spot her house by the pole hung outside her door, a broom lashed to the top, the medieval version of a neon open sign. Historian Judith Bennett traced thousands of surviving tax and court records showing that for centuries, brewing was overwhelmingly domestic women's work. It wasn't rare, it was the default.
So if brewing was invented by women, run by women, for thousands of years, across cultures with zero contact with each other, how did it end up looking like this? An industry where today only about 1 in 10 professional brewers in the US is a woman. Here's the mismatch, and it's the biggest twist in this story. As beer stopped being a household staple and started being a commercial product, cities began forming brewing guilds, official organizations that controlled who was legally allowed to sell beer. One guild after another started closing its doors to women. Not because women had stopped knowing how to brew, because brewing had become profitable, and profitable trades, once formalized into law, kept getting quietly handed to men. By the 1500s in England, brewsters were being taxed, regulated, and pushed out of a trade they had run for 1,000 years. New laws required expensive equipment and guild membership most women simply weren't granted. Some were even accused of witchcraft. Historians point out that a brewster's tools, a bubbling cauldron, a broom, a tall pointed hat worn to be visible above a market stall, are strangely close to the exact imagery we still attach to witches today. Archaeologist Maren Dineley, who has spent years researching the origins of prehistoric brewing, notes that the moment this job became institutional, the people doing it stopped being trusted the way they once were. Tell me, do you think that same rule, whoever controls something once it starts making money, is still quietly deciding who gets credit for work today? If you want to know what other natural rules turn out to be recent inventions, subscribe to Neanderthink. Because look at the industry now. Brewing, once entirely a woman's trade, has become one of the most male-dominated food industries that exists. Craft breweries market themselves with beards, plaid, hunting imagery, as if beer had always belonged to men, when for most of history, it was closer to a woman's kitchen chore than a man's hobby.
This shows up in smaller ways in your own life, too, even if you've never thought about beer once. It's the same pattern behind why unpaid domestic labor, cooking, cleaning, caregiving, still skews toward one gender, while the exact same tasks, the moment they're professionalized and paid, skew toward the other.
Researchers studying labor history call this occupational resegregation. Work doesn't stay gendered because of some fixed biological rule. It stays gendered because whoever benefits from the current setup keeps redrawing the line the second real money enters the room. That's the uncomfortable part. The divide you might assume is just natural was never fixed by biology at all. It was fixed by whoever was writing the guild rules, the tax codes, and the property laws at the exact moment a trade became valuable.
So here's the reframe. Next time you see a craft beer label plastered with a bearded lumberjack, you're not looking at tradition. You're looking at the opposite of it. A fairly recent rebrand of a job women built from the ground up and were later locked out of by law, not by skill. The same lens works on almost anything you assume is just how it's always been. Cooking, coding, nursing, finance. Ask the real question. Was this actually always divided this way? Or did it only get divided once someone realized there was money in it?
You don't have to untangle 5,000 years of guild history tonight, but you can stop mistaking recent for ancient and legal for natural. Most of the divides that feel permanent to you are barely a few centuries old, a blink compared to how long women ran this particular show. So the next time a drink hits your tongue and that old, sour, slightly sweet craving lights up, remember, your body isn't responding to a man's invention, it's responding to a woman's. And that's just one of the ancient jobs your modern world quietly renamed. Next time on Neanderthink, we go looking for another one.